Consistent self-improvement, everybody. You are now listening to American gypC podcast. I am your host, Classic, and I am here with my co-host,
gypC. And today we have Dr. Iredia. She is a holistic medical doctor, a metaphysical wellness coach, a naturopathic physician, a poet, and an advocate of the plant-based and vegan lifestyle. Welcome, Dr. Egypt.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I'd like to start by asking, where are you currently and where are you from originally?
Okay, good. So currently I'm in Illinois. Originally, oh my, that's I never know how to quite answer that question.
I have the same issue.
Because I'm just so I was raised in the United Kingdom predominantly, but I guess background before that, my parents are from Nigeria, West Africa.
Okay.
But I was raised in the UK. I've lived in several countries, and now I'm in the US. So the "where are you from" question, it's like,
We understand.
Yeah, I have the same issue because I'm like, do you mean where I'm born, where I've lived? I moved around a lot. I don't, I don't know.
Does she know you're Eritrean?
Oh, well, I'm Eritrean, but I grew up in Ethiopia, and then I moved to the U.S. At a young age.
For our listeners.
Yeah.
Wow. Wonderful.
So, what is it like as far as transitioning from the UK to the US?
So when I came, it was a rather big cultural adjustment because I predominantly lived in the UK and lived in other European countries, and it's like two different worlds, really, if I'm honest with you. So I've moved here almost going on 6.5, 7 years now. So initially it was a bit of I had to adjust just to the culture, the energetic dynamics that seem to play out in the US, just because I wasn't used to quite a lot of things. But over time, I'm far from being Americanized, but I'm more used to like the way people see things and how things play out here and things like that. So I'm still adjusted in a good way, mostly.
What made you pick Illinois?
Well, I actually didn't pick Illinois. I picked my program because the primary reason I came here was to do my doctorate in naturopathic medicine, because we don't actually have that program in the UK. So I was going by like all the states or the countries that had the program, and I considered Canada and the US, and I researched more into my college that I eventually ended up doing my program. And it just happened to be in Illinois. I didn't even know what the weather was like.
I'm sure you did it. But what made you focus on naturopathic medicine versus other specialties?
Yeah, so I had trained in conventional like medicine as a conventional physician. And there were so many reasons, but generally I started to personally embark on well, not embark, I guess more deepen, because I've, from when I can remember, always been on a spiritual search, spiritual exploration journey. But I deepen my spiritual and sort of self-growth practices and explorations. And a lot of things within that conventional medicine structure and paradigm of operation didn't sit too well, honestly, with my soul, and honestly with my notions of what I thought true healing and deep healing is, not just healing on more the superficial or just the physical level. So I started to just explore like indigenous traditions and like what does ancient wisdom say about healing, and what did people do thousands of years ago before we had the medications and the highly technology-based interventions. And I started to get drawn towards that path, and just through like different self-study, going to conferences, seminars, the universe just sending people onto my path that awakened me more on this journey of healing and self-growth. I stumbled upon naturopathic medicine, and for me, when I looked into it deeper, naturopathy seemed a good fit just because I wanted to study about herbs more and, sacred herbal wisdom, but I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to study about nutrition, but I just didn't want to become a nutritionist. I wanted to study all these different facets of natural healing, and naturopathy seems to hold space for quite a few facets altogether. So that was why I just, went along naturopathic medicine and came to Illinois primarily to study the program.
Where
I've
did
been
you
here
be? Oh, okay. Where did you begin your studies?
of naturopathy or medicine
Medicine.
in the UK. So I studied in London, St George's University of London. So in the UK, yeah.
Okay. So in the medical school there versus here, what were some of the things that you noticed that they may do there, but they don't do here in the school?
Right, that's an interesting question. I think here it seemed like when I went to college, it just seemed to have a broader sort of age range mix for people who were in school, which was rather pleasantly surprising for me. I mean, for the most part, I did go to medical school when I was much younger, but even with my medical school, there were like predominantly people around sort of, I'd say early to mid 20s to like maximum early 30s. And that was like 90% of our student body, in medical school. Whereas here, when I went to naturopathic medical school, it was a much broader range. Some people had chosen naturopathy as like a second career option or just a career transition. So we had people, I guess, with more life experience on the program.
Mm.
We had a broader age range, from early 20s up until like one gentleman was like in his 70s. So it was beautiful like that because I felt like I could just tap into their like wisdom, life knowledge outside the naturopathic healing sector. So that was good for sure. Yeah, that was one main thing.
So you're an advocate of plant-based lifestyle, and from a lot of times I hear about environmental reasons why to go with a plant-based lifestyle. Can you speak to more medical reasons or health reasons why it's beneficial to go with plant-based lifestyle, and for spiritual reasons as well?
Okay, there are a few aspects. I would say one major aspect would be, I'd say, I don't know if your listeners are, or some of them maybe, or may want to explore the alkalization principle, which is essentially that the body thrives in healing and regenerating itself when our cellular environment is in a more alkaline state as opposed to more acidic based state. I mean, both are good and both have their place, but the I guess standard diets that we consume in westernized developed nations or industrialized nations is what I like to say more. It's very acidity prone. It encourages the body to produce a lot of acid, and kind of in summary, or to keep it simple, when we have a lot of acid in our cells and our body tissues and our various body fluids, it encourages a lot of inflammation throughout the body, encourages essentially catabolic processes, so breakdown processes in the body. It encourages the growth of various like unwanted, or I'd say unserving, because I think there's a place for everything, even parasites in nature. But it encourages, when our bodies are too acidic, it encourages the growth of unserving parasites, different viruses, bacteria, what have you. So it generally doesn't foster optimal health. We want to be in a more alkaline state, and the consumptions of things like leafy greens, sprouts, microgreens, alkalizing fruits can just help us to sustain a more alkaline based, I like to say, lifestyle, because how acidic or alkaline we are is more than our diets, really.
Mm.
But the diet plays a big part. So yes, the plant-based diet just promotes us to be in a more alkaline state, which promotes healing in general. So that's one um, main aspect.
What are some things that can cause your body to be more acidic?
Great question. So again, one would be the diet, especially if, say, someone consumes a diet that's very heavy on things like fried foods, hydrogenated oils, or what I call unnatural oils. There's some oils that have come into the market, and it's like, this is unnatural to the human body. Like I take one like canola oil.
Mhm.
20 years ago, there was no canola oil. But now it's massively produced, it's cheap. It was essentially like sort of a GMO hybridized made up oil. Canola oil comes from Canada oil. So they just got the name from, and they hybridized safflower oil and did some stuff to it and came up with canola oil. So things like that would cause a lot of acidity, especially, I mean, no, nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a couple of things with canola oil in them, it's not the be all and end all. But if you are consuming a lot of foods with these, toxic, essentially toxic hydrogenated oils, that can make your body more acidity prone. And other things are a big thing is just lifestyle practices. People don't really think about, like, the kind of water we drink, the thoughts we have, how we use our breath, how we move our bodies, how we just self-care practices. So having what I call a very busy go kind of lifestyle, no time for breaks. It's rich in stimulants to keep you going. A lot of stimulants, like a lot of sugar and caffeine and energy drinks, they contain substances that can push your body into definitely a more acidic state. So those are just some of the things, like breath work as well. Just because of the lifestyles of most people, we're not in touch with our bodies. We become disembodied. It's a lot of shallow breathing, a lot of mouth breathing as well can push our body into a more acidic state. Just so those are just like some sort of, I guess, practices that can make
Yeah,
us more acidic.
I didn't think about some of the things that you just mentioned, like even just, you know, busy lifestyle or just even breath work and things like that. I didn't think would cause an acidic state. I just thought mostly diet and some lifestyle choices.
What are
Yeah.
some of the things that you found that are connected dealing with your practices from dealing with your medical practice and also your spiritual practice? What are some of the things that you've learned and that you found have been kind of always or have been connected with dealing with medical issues and maybe a, a unhappy spirit maybe?
Oh, sure. Great. A beautiful question. Thanks for asking. getting Definitely getting me to think. I consider myself as a metaphysical wellness practitioner. So I guess for me, the primary lens I look at life is via spirit and via consciousness, essentially. So I think between medical practice and like that spiritual life, there's a very tight link because humans are mind, body, spirit. Like, there is no mind apart from body, there's no body apart from mind, and spirit feels everything. So we're like all interconnected, you know. So there are many ways that, like, those two, I guess, areas of practice can merge together when it comes to healing, because I see true healing as deep healing, healing that transverses mind, body, spirit, essentially. And personally, this is like my own personal opinion, I guess, because I come up with my various theories in my head, but I think a lot of the socioeconomical, for sure, but even physical dysfunction that we are having now as modern humans, a lot of it stems from disconnection from ourselves, disconnection from the spiritual realm, or just not harboring to the needs of consciousness, to the needs of developing our consciousness. It comes down to that. It's like a little thing. For example, again, I'll tie it back to the dietary practices. People consume, and I'm not perfect, including me. I have my moments, even though I try and generally eat clean. But when people are stressed, or even when they're not stressed, out of habitual patterns, they'll consume a lot of like fast food and junk foods and takeaway foods, and they're not too concerned about what's in it. It's more like they go by how it tastes, which is fair enough. If you look at it just on the levels, this is food, essentially. It's just meant to taste good or give me some energy to do life. No big deal, it's just food. But then if you look at it through another lens, like truly we are a manifestation of the divine, whichever Godhead or divine force anyone subscribes to. If you see yourself as a manifestation of God, of the divine, God is a loaded word, so I like to say the divine, but God, I guess you could say, or the goddess.
Or the universe, either one. Yeah.
The universe, I like that word. Essentially, you have reverence for your body. You see your body is truly a temple, a sacred space. You really have a reverence for your body. And if you have true love and reverence for something, you want to nurture it and nourish it with the best substances, the most highest vibration substances, because you essentially, in a way, worship yourself every time you eat. So you wouldn't want to just put in whatever into your body that's your sacred temple. So again, if you look at it through a spiritual lens, it can inform our health or self-care practices on a very deep level. So it's that paradigm shift in how we see healing and self-care.
Okay.
I know you've talked about minimalism and digital minimalism, and what do you feel like? Well, one, why do you strive for a minimalist lifestyle, and what do you feel like in society today is kind of causing the I guess the off balance? Can't think of the term. I guess, why do you follow? Why do you advocate for that?
Yes. So it's something I've been exploring more, I guess, in the last maybe 8 to 10 years. And minimalism. For me, it's been one of the game changers in my life. I haven't been like, I'm not a sort of heavily material based person, but I've had my moments of, shopping for clothes and shoes and bags and all the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then as I engage more in these practices of consumerism and constantly buying stuff, it just like, for me, it didn't sit well with my soul. I was like, there's more to life than just shopping. There's more to life than just acquiring material goods. Like, there are things that truly give me deep fulfillment, like relationships and contribution and community and spiritual growth and self growth, but I'm not spending as much time or mental headspace on those activities. I'm just like on the rat race, making money, paying utilities, and then the rest of the money you buy stuff that like a couple of months time you don't even want anymore, and it's just constant. And for me, adopting minimalism as a practice was one of the main things that I just incorporated to like live a more intentional life, a more aware life, because I feel like, especially the societies we live in these days, there's just so many forces that are vying for our attention, that are like pulling us out of ourselves and out of our inner knowing to like constantly be dependent on things outside of us to give us satisfaction and joy and bliss. Whereas a lot of it, or that satisfaction, joy, peace, serenity, comes from nurturing your inner life. And when I started to see this in my life, I was like, oh gosh, I've wasted so much time and money in just buying stuff. I need to cut down. And so I did. I decluttered. I'm still working on decluttering, mental decluttering. I think it's given me more serenity and just peace in my life. Yeah.
I know one of the things we worry about just environmental things causing issues, health issues and things like that, from, radiation, and from, all of these electronics having some emitting, from Wi-Fi, and different things in the environment that we have today
Yeah.
that we didn't have in the past, that affects our health, whether it's mental or physical health.
Even emotionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there things, I guess, are some of those things a concern for you, or are there things that you look out for in those areas?
Oh yes, probably all of them. Probably all the things you just mentioned, to be honest. I mean, it gets challenging. I won't, I'll be honest to that, because you can think, go down the rabbit hole of thoughts about like, oh, this is toxic and I don't know how this is affecting my health. And like for me, I'm the researcher. Like I like to know, especially health wise, like how different things affect health. And the more you know, you start to freak out like, oh my God, everything's like we're living in a toxic soup. And
Yeah, it becomes hard to
Yeah.
see, like, what are you supposed to eat? Because even
I
you're
know.
like, okay, I'll go into plant-based lifestyle, and then you find like, okay, you have to pick the right type of plants, or else they're been affected as well. So it becomes challenging.
Yeah.
So going back to the plant-based lifestyle, for a someone that's a beginner, um, like, what are some tips you have, like, when you're first getting into it? Like, what are some things that you can use to help, whether it's places to find what types of food to cook, or books, anything like that that helped you?
Or what type of
Sure.
plant-based stuff to not
Yeah, what
trust.
is your staple?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. To not trust. Oh, there's a few I can talk about. So, just taking on gypsy's questions first. So I would say, like, adopt it if you can in a way that matches your personality. You may come across somebody else's advocacy of what they did to transition to a plant-based diet that you think, oh my gosh, I could never do that. And I'd say, like, rather than just give up, like some people become like vegetarian or vegan overnight, right? And they stick with it for like 10 years or for the rest of their lives. Whereas some people need like a slower transition over a year. They might start with, like, say, meatless Mondays, or they might say out of 3 meals in a day, I'm going to have one that's completely plant-based with no animal products in it. Or I'm going to have a weekend vegetarian, or every time I go out to eat, I will choose a vegetarian option. So that's like a couple of tips. If you're the person that just needs a slower transition into it, you have to make it work for your lifestyle. Because, like, when somebody's trying to get on the plant-based path or exploring it, it can be overwhelming. And it also depends where they get their source of inspiration or information from. I know, like, for me, like, one big one was just simple things like YouTube. There's a lot of information on YouTube, which is great, can be inspiring. But, like, if you start to really get into the lifestyle of somebody who is very far from where you are, they're like, I don't know, they're like fruitarian, they're juicing every day and sprouting every day, like they have nothing else to do but juice and sprout, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets discouraging because you're
Yeah.
like, that's so far away.
I know, because, like, most people have other commitments in life, and like they can't just be juicing and sprouting all day, basically. So use them as inspiration, but perhaps try to look for channels or books or people with like a similar lifestyle to you who haven't gone too far from where you are now. I can find that can be much more doable for people than when they just subscribe to somebody because they think they're the professional in it. Sometimes professionals don't meet people where they're at, or they're just too far ahead. It can be discouraging. So that would be one thing. And also, like, maybe just keep it simple, because I have clients that I work with and they to plant-based, so they want to, and they're like going out to the bookstores and getting all the like fancy gourmet recipe books and how to do this and how to do that, and they, you know, revamp their pantry, and then they look at all these new ingredients from halfway around the world they've never cooked before, and they're like, oh gosh, how am I gonna do this?
Yeah.
So keep it simple, like maybe start out with simple ingredients or recipes that don't take too long to make, or whatever is currently your staple. Like if someone's a pizza person or a pasta person, they like that, maybe just find ways of, you know, veganizing your favorite dish, essentially, rather than trying to learn a whole new dish from another culture, and it's just a lot of work. Just make, I'm a proponent, and it comes back to simple living, minimalism, of just making things as easy for yourself as possible, because I find a lot of times the simple things, they sustain us long term, and we don't have this emotional, you know, nervous system sort of anxiety over making the change, because it's slowly sinking into our lifestyles.
So I'm sure you're familiar with meditation. We kind of talk about it often on the show. What are some of, when did you get into meditation? When did you learn about it? And what are some of the pros that you've gotten from the knowledge of meditation?
Oh, isn't meditation wonderful? Oh, every time I hear it, I feel like I should be doing some. I probably talk about it more than I do it. But
Same here.
yeah. So I got into meditation when I was probably like properly, you know, doing it, or, you know, seriously, when I was late teens was when I seriously started to explore it. And I'm sure you guys know it's a beautiful practice. It's life changing. So in terms of, sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Just the pros, I guess.
All the pros, yes. So the benefits I found for me, it's like that mental clarity, the ability to be able to be present, fully present, and fully embodied in my space, you know, and just feel like I have a clearer mind. It's like I've done laundry to my mind when I meditate, essentially. And also I just feel like more connected to myself, and more connected to the world around me. Like I'm not just going through the world very disconnected. I feel more grounded. It's a very grounding practice. Obviously, there are different styles of meditation as well. So for me, it's been like just that feeling of groundedness, feeling serene, feeling like I can tap the inner peace that's always there within us, but it seems to be like clouded up in just like thought and noise and busyness. Like it's a beautiful space when I meditate, because it gives me the opportunity to just tap with that, into that inner stillness, to just be peaceful without drama, essentially.
Yeah. The perfect getaway place in your head.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of your views on, I guess you would say, extraterrestrial, or maybe astral projection, or just things outside of Earth's nature?
My how deep down the rabbit hole do you want to go? Oh gosh, my mind is like next level, but okay. Wow. So I believe for sure in extraterrestrials and intraterrestrials as well. Actually, I believe, not that I 100% know, you know, but I do believe that there are other planes of existence to this earth, just like how we have a mind, body, and spirit. The earth also has, like, I guess, a mind, body, and spirit of the earth. So this physical plane of the earth that we exist on is just kind of one level. I believe in the multi-dimensional nature of just earth, you know, as a celestial body. I mean, like ancient scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita speaks to that, saying, I've forgotten if it was 7 or 11, don't quote me, one of them, there that many levels to Earth, and sometimes when we the entities that some people might consider even as extraterrestrial or demons just are entities that have somehow come from those other dimensions into our own physical dimension of Earth, essentially. So that's my kind of view on that. That's one thing. I don't believe the Earth is a globe. I believe the Earth is flat.
Okay.
Just from my own personal research and unlearning of many things, I believe the Earth is planar, not global.
How did you come to that conclusion?
Yeah.
Because I've like, open-mindedly looked at everything just to, from my own knowledge, because I don't feel like, I like to make my own decisions and look at all the um, I guess evidence and facts and things like that. So
Yeah, and even
how
like
did
they say, if it was circle or flat or a triangle, of course we would still have tomorrow and the day after, and we would keep going. But to be at least open-minded to be able to view it, yes.
But how did
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
personally come to that conclusion?
So again, it was just through a lot of personal research and things that, like, I find the universe, it's a law of attraction, right? When you're sometimes really curious about certain areas and you start to explore it more, you start to more evidence or truths that align with whatever you're seeking come into your life. So it was like that for me. I kind of went down the rabbit hole of research about flat earth. There was a major he's not a spiritual, he's a truther. I call him a truther, not so much a spiritual teacher, Santo Bonacci. I don't know if you're aware of his work.
I'm not.
No.
What's the name again? Santo
Bonacci. Yeah. He's an Australian gentleman, and his work is just so fascinating on so many levels. Like I've explored some of the things that you cover here on your show, and I think it's you guys would be fascinated by his work for sure. It aligns with a lot of what you speak
We'll
to
have
as
to
well.
check him out.
Yeah, we'll look into it.
Yeah, he's real good. I mean, he also talks about like astrotheology and things like that. But essentially, I came across his work on flat Earth theory and the work of other, I guess, flat Earth truthers as well. And I watched a series of documentaries. I really started to look at just some of the things I was told in school that I had believed, I guess. And I realized the only reason I really believed them was because I was taught it in school and I probably didn't question it, and you just take it as truth. And like when you're a kid, they're like, the teacher has the globe on the table and they're spinning the globe and showing you the countries. And I'm like, just from the documentaries and the teachings, I realized there were certain experiences in my own self that I'd noticed, even like personally, like for example, when I would, I would fly and you in the daytime, you look outside the window, to my eye, just something simple. There were like so-called hundreds of proof about flat earth, but this is something simple. Just to my eye, from that distance, the earth didn't seem like it curved at any point, and you could see pretty far away. And that was what my eye was telling me, but my brain had been conditioned to be like, the earth is global. There is a curve somewhere. You're just at a plane that you can't quite see the curve. So I was discounting what my sort of natural eyes were showing me, and that's just one thing. And then there's there's a whole lot to the whole flat earth thing, like science-wise, things that don't make sense. And I started to just really unpick that. And
flight patterns and different things.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I started to unpick things, I was like, it makes more sense from just the limited, because I'm no expert, the limited knowledge that I've pieced together. It makes more sense to me that the earth is flat than it is global. Once I look at it myself, not once I just believe it. Right. So I'm just like, and then there are other like global agendas at play, and I started to piece all of them together in various conspiracy theories and all.
What is the benefit? That's one thing I never really understood and still trying to understand, I guess. What would be the benefit of saying is something different than what it is? Like, what's the
Yeah.
benefit of saying that it's round? I guess I never
versus
really,
flat.
I never really figured that out. But even in
Um,
school, when they're showing you the map, they're telling you, like, actually, this is not all the way accurate, because Africa is technically, the continent of Africa is technically a
so
lot
much
larger
larger.
than we show you on this map. And this is actually this way. And it's like, you got all these caveats to even the stuff you're showing me in the textbook.
I
So
know.
that's a little off.
I recently saw a post. I think it was it was on Instagram, and it was showing of an old lady, 100-year-old lady, that was saying she remembers when they started teaching flat Earth, when they basically changed it and started teaching different. So
Oh,
Oh,
you mean when they changed it to the globe versus
yeah,
the
yeah. When
flat
I'm
Earth?
sorry, yeah, when they changed it, started teaching round Earth, when they
Yeah.
changed it
yeah.
from flat Earth to round Earth, and I guess that's been within 100 years from now. But to go back to what you were saying, the benefits, I remember them mentioning something about when you're looking at it round, you have Antarctica, and you have the South Pole, and you have the North Pole. But when you're looking at it flat, you have this ice wall around
Mm-hmm.
all of us, and
Yes.
that has something to, I think, to do with
Right, because that
the
ice
round
has
versus flat.
been visited a lot of times, and
Yes.
that, and a lot of the information gets suppressed. That's my other thing. It's like, if people, and this is not just with flat earth, just with all information in general, people have the right to look at all the information available and make their own discernment. And it's like, right now, it's like all things get suppressed if it doesn't match what the mainstream narrative is supposed to say. So it's like, you're not
Yeah.
able to make your own decisions based because of things being censored.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
and I guess to even I'm here to learn a lot as well, even to, I guess, to still, you have to watch certain videos over and over to get more knowledge, even for some of our audience that's not quite, up to speed on certain things. Can you, are you able to give us a slight definition about like 5D and 3D?
Oh, 5D and 3D.
Yeah.
Um, so you mean like dimensions of human existence?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So like three-dimensional is this, how I see it, is essentially the dimension that we live and think through every day. It's, I can see, you can see me, we can touch this, that's three-dimension, our everyday tangible existence. That would be sort of three-dimensional. But five-dimension to me is where you have this, there isn't so much of a space-time continuum. Like for example, in five-dimensional reality, there is no past, present, and future. It's all like in the now, if you like. And like for instance, and you guys may have come across it, or I know I've come across it, like like time travelers. Time
Yeah.
travelers.
Yeah.
I used to actually listen to this guy. His channel is just basically interviews a lot of time travelers. I haven't watched it in a long time, but it was pretty
Yeah.
interesting hearing different people's um, stories about the future and the past and different things.
Yes. So like for me, like when I see time travel, I see it as humans, or at least people that are tapping on into that five-dimensional reality where there is no separation in time, in a sort of linear planar level, and basically everything is the now, and things like that. And even things like we consider, what I think are, there are, because I'm spiritual, I believe in things like, like ghosts and spirits and things like that. But I think also part of it is perhaps like when we encounter entities or energetic beings that have somehow come through from a different dimension, our reality is not able to process it. So it seems like they're ghosts or spirits, but they could have just been like literally entities that come down from different dimensions, and a lot of ancient texts, because I like to draw wisdom from a lot of indigenous traditions and ancient teachings, because I think if it's really old, it stood the test of time, there must be some degree of truth in it. So, and they speak of these extra, I guess, extra dimensional realities. Now, the shamans, when they do have their various shamanistic journey and practices, when they're using things like entheogens and hallucinogenics, they're able to tap into those other states of beings and realities. And humans, essentially, we have our etheric bodies and we have our physical bodies. So our physical bodies reside within the 3D reality, but then we have our etheric bodies, which is like almost like it taps more into the realm of unified consciousness, singular consciousness, but it's not quite there. It's like another layer of our energy, if you like. And when you have things like acupuncture or energy-based modalities, Reiki, acupuncture, or reading and things like that, it's interacting with our etheric body, which is extra 3D. It's not in the 3D dimension, but it's still part of us. So that's kind of how I see those realities. And it's like states of being. I see it's like sleeping. Like, as humans, we exist in many states of awareness, just basic awareness. Like, we have our sleeping reality, and we have, or our dream state, and then we have our waking state, and then we have trance state. Like, if you think about, sometimes you could be locked in a daydream, or just coming out of sleep, or so absorbed in like music and dance. You're not in your full waking reality. You're in trance state. That's just another state of being. We may not exist in it a lot, because most of the time we exist in dream, or in sleep, not so much dream, sleep, or waking states. But to me, it's just different states of being. But I think as a society, we've come to almost like make the waking state of being, the conscious state of being, like the most superior state of being. And everyone should just be in that state. Forget about your dreams and your chances. Just be in the waking state, hustling and working.
Yeah.
Right.
It really drains the energy.
Yeah, there's no importance in what's going on in the dream state, which we're spending a lot of time in every single day.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts on dreams and what's happening, just even personally and in your research? Like, what do you think is happening when we're going, leaving this state of being to that state of being?
Just the connections with reality in our dreams.
Yes. So I know one of you mentioned about astral projection, and that's a state that essentially, dream state, that we can't astrally project, or some of us do. Some of us do it more consciously. Sometimes it just happens. But again, I think dream state is us existing in another state or being, but we're all connected. So I don't see like 3D, 5D separate. They're kind of all merged, in a way. Yeah. So dream state is just when we are more existent in that extra 3D state of being. And I even feel like even within dream states, there's more than one. There's more than, there is like maybe the state in which you can astrally project, and there is like the dream state, which there's lucid dreaming. Like, that's different, because you're dreaming and you're dreaming, but you're not really astrally projecting, but it's still dream state. So I feel like there's different levels of even dream state. And for me, dream state is powerful, because personally, like, dream prophecy is something that I've had since I was a kid, essentially. So I get things coming to me in my dream that will guide me, that will show up what's going on in my life, or that will prophesize what's happening in my life. And I know, like, just on a personal level, that it's been powerful for me. And I think tying in with like culture and like this, I almost think there's a war on sleep. That's a whole other
yeah,
possibly.
Yeah, and the blue lights from the machines don't help either. So.
Yeah. And that's one of the weaponry for the war on sleep, because I do believe that the powers that be they know like states like dream consciousness are very powerful. People were permitted and encouraged to have deep, full, nurturing sleep. Their bodies would be healthier, their minds would be saner. Some people might tap into um, the wisdom that dreams can provide into them. So when I see the world, because I'm a pattern recognition kind of person, and when I see the world, it's like there are different psychological, mental, and spiritual wars at play. And for me, there is like a war on sleep. Like even if you look at like things like the opioid crisis, the overuse of stimulants, the overuse of medication, our busy lifestyles that we're encouraged, a lot of these practices, you know, the additives in foods, a lot of them are very detrimental to having a deep, nourishing state of sleep, right? So
Yeah.
there's a reason they're doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't want to tap in.
Yeah. There's more and more studies coming up about psychedelic mushrooms being beneficial to as far as mentally or
Mental health.
yeah, mental health. Yeah. What's your opinion on that study or the relationship even with holistic healing, mushrooms and
Yeah.
holistic healing?
Yes. I think the entheogens or hallucinogenics or yes, plant-based, hallucinogens or entheogens, I think they have a very powerful role to play in the healing process. If they are used or if they're approached with a sense of reverence and a sense of respect and just a sense of safety, there is a place. They are powerful agents of healing, but if used irresponsibly, they can also be detrimental to somebody. I mean, on a personal level, I guess, and even professionally, I'm all for entheogens. Again, if used in a responsible, safe manner, or in you know, if the person either like allies with professionals or groups or organizations, or even if it's a shaman that actually knows what they're doing, you know,
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful. I think it's a portal for opening up the mind on one level and coming back to your thing about the medicinal mushrooms. Mushrooms or the magic mushrooms, entheogenic mushrooms, I mean, on a kind of biochemical level, they have so much healing agents like the psilocybin, which is they've isolated as the primary entheogenic substance in mushrooms. Although I feel there are a lot more that they probably haven't found, but you know, they put you into this sort of connected, dreamlike state where your vagus system, your vagal system. So essentially, your vagal system is we have like two nerve related systems in our body, the sympathetic, which is for like, you know, fighting, going, doing things, being active, energy, and then we have the parasympathetic, which in summary is like the rest and digest and heal system. So a lot of the entheogens, especially like the psilocybin, the magic mushrooms, they drive our body into a more parasympathetic or vagal state, which encourages, you know, better sleep, rest, digestion. It calms down our nervous system and activates deep channels of healing on a physical level. And when you talk about like mental well-being as well, a lot of people suffering from things like, you know, manic depression, bipolar, addiction issues and things like that. And it seems like the only route available to them is either some form of counseling if they're lucky, or just medication essentially. And I think nature and the divine, the universe has provided us with so many healing tools, one being the sacred plant medicines and the entheogens, that if more people had access to those resources, wouldn't they be better off? Because if you have the medication, fine, you may feel better. And oftentimes, like say antidepressants, they don't really make you feel better. They just blunt you out so you don't feel anything. You're just a neutral state. You know, so if they had access to alternative tools like the entheogens that could maybe help their mental well-being, reduce their depression without all the added side effects, and if it was used in a responsible manner, I say why not?
What's your opinion on like crystals, minerals having metaphysical properties and
Yeah.
pros.
Well, I'm a metaphysical wellness practitioner, so crystals are definitely a big thing that I'm into. Um, wow. I mean, crystals. Well, where do you start? um, it's just even looking at, again, I like to tap into history and like frequency. Everything comes down to frequency and vibration, and like a lot of the ancient wisdom traditions that did incorporate crystal into their practice, like traditional Chinese medicine. Like a lot of people think now it's just acupuncture and herbs, but if you actually go back in time, they were strong advocates for mineral-based medicines and rocks and crystals and things like that. Even a lot of paganistic traditions, they incorporate crystals into their healing, and they see it as just I guess, substances or agents of light that can hold a certain frequency, and they can store that certain frequency. And when you work with that frequency, or that crystal, either in a physical manner or energetically, like if you meditate with a crystal or if you wear the crystal, the frequency or the energy that's held up by that crystal can emanate into your own body and can help with your healing process. And how I see it, I see, like, for example, like plants or algae or, different vegetables, they're able to trap sunlight. Let's just take sunlight. They're able to trap sunlight. They're able to store it somehow within their cells, as chlorophyll, what have you. We take it in. So everything essentially is a transfer of energy, right? Light energy, moon energy, just energy. So I just think, like, if plants can do that, like, why stop at just plants? Like, why do we feel like the sun's shining on rocks or shining on minerals or into caves? Why can't those things trap the sunlight in their own way? They might not be able to do it as plants do, but in their own way, because the sun is on everything on earth. Like, we're affected by the sun. Like, even something little like going out in the sun frequently increases mitochondria in our cells, and that can help with things like that's why people feel energized in the summer as well. It's not just the vitamin D level, it's not just because it looks good. You're physically, the mitochondria, which are like energy powerhouses in our bodies, physically they increase by just being out in the sun. So we can trap sunlight energy without going through plants or animals. Without eating plants and animals, we can get some kind of energy from the sun. So why not rocks and minerals? And if we can somehow work with those rocks and minerals to harness our energy or to bring some, force of healing into our lives, why not? And I say, with anything, if somebody is curious, especially things like crystals, it doesn't hurt to explore and see if there are changes in your life. Because it's seeing is believing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there some of your favorites that you work with? Favorite crystals?
Oh God, I don't really have a favorite crystal. It depends really on what is the intention I'm looking to harness with working that crystal, or my mood. I mean, and the accessibility of the crystal as well, because sometimes you learn about this crystal is like amazing and it does this, and like you can't get it, or it's like $400 and you're like, no.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like, just little things like citrine. I love citrine for just cleansing, mental clarity, cleansing the metaphysical tools that I work with. Just looking at it, it's clear, it's fresh. It brings that sense of purity into the mind. So I like citrine. I like almost all the quartz crystals. I like tiger's eye, definitely moonstone. I like quite a few.
Yeah, we got into researching where to dig up our own crystals, and we've been
Wow.
lucky at certain places. We've
Wow.
gotten to try it here in California. We got lucky with some barite crystals, and started exploring other areas like Georgia. Found some rose quartz and black tourmaline. Um, we found several. So yeah, we sometimes certain ones call to you,
Yeah.
and I've personally gotten to see how barite, the differences barite crystal has made in my life without even, it made a difference. And then I got to figure it out later on. So, I got to see that it does work.
Yeah.
Powerful. I love the fact that you are like actively engaging in, curating your own crystals. Because for me, like on an energetic level, that gives the whole process so much more power than just like purchasing it online or going to a shop, because you have history and story and you dug it out yourself. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just
Cleaning it is a whole nother process, because when you first get it, it does not look,
Yeah.
white like this. It looks like it's all dirt. And even finding it, and sometimes we'll go to the same place multiple times and realize we missed we missed one, and it's right in front of our faces. And
Yeah.
I sometimes I try to figure it out, and I'm like, maybe it was in a different frequency and I was not in that frequency at the time I looked at it, and this time I am, because I'm like, how do they keep appearing in the same
no.
place all the time? So we always try to figure it out, and certain ones call to you. It's weird.
Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. I'm so jealous.
We'll have to send you some crystals as
Yeah,
well.
definitely. We
Yeah.
love sending them to people.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
um, as far as we love going to the ocean, um, salt water, do you see benefits in salt water, ocean water, and things like that? Sand?
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, you're speaking to a naturopath. So all the elements. I think all the elements of nature harbor healing properties, all the elements, even the toxic ones, I will say, if used responsibly and in the right manner and people know what they're doing, um, most definitely, like, going to the ocean, the salt. I mean, it's even like things like you must have heard of like the Dead Sea salts, right? It's so
Mhm.
rich in minerals, and a lot of those minerals coming back to the alkalization. A lot of those minerals, especially if they have like magnesium in them, can, our skin can absorb some of those minerals and they can help with alkalizing us. So that's another one, like salts can help with alkalization. And a lot of times as well, I think minerals, it's funny because I feel like even in the supplement industry, we're big on like vitamins and superfoods and stuff, but I think like mineral appreciation for minerals is still a little bit lagging, like just the roles of minerals in the human body. It's, tremendously important. And when we are in stressful modes, the minerals are one of the things that are easily depleted in the human body. So things like having the, soaking by the beach or, ocean if you can, in those, like, I mean, the thing though is like the pollution as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's some clean beaches out here as well. Yeah.
Exactly. So if you know where you're going to and like just making sure it's not too toxic, I think it's a beautiful practice. It's the minerals, it's the sunlight on your skin, it's the wave. Like I I practice what I call alchemical healing, and one of the modes that I use is Ayurveda, right? And Ayurveda speaks like in some. I'll say this quickly. So about sattva, when we live a sattvic lifestyle, is one that's generally calming to our nervous system, rich in whole foods, less toxic, not very busy, so slow living. All those contribute to a sattvic lifestyle. And when we have a sattvic lifestyle, that's when we get the maximum healing. So coming back to the ocean and just relaxing in the ocean, swimming in the ocean, that wave-like effect of the water moving against us and just listening to the wind on the water, that is very calming to our nervous system, and that drives us more into a state that is sattvic. Again, calming to our nervous system, activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest, the digest, and the healing nervous system. So there's so many things to bodies of water. I mean, I'm such a documentary queen. And there's actually a documentary. I can send you guys a link. I think it's called the blue, or the power of the blue, or something. And it just speaks about the healing benefits of bodies of water, so oceans, waters, lakes, streams, and it breaks it down on so many levels. It's powerful medicine just being out in the open ocean. Powerful medicine.
Okay. Thanks for
I'll have to
sharing
look
that.
into that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I guess before we get ready to close it out, I guess another one that I didn't, sun gazing. I meant to
Oh,
ask you about the benefits of
my
sun
favorite
gazing.
question.
while the sun is shining on you, for those who are listening, we love sun gazing here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful that you guys engage in these practices.
Yeah. Well,
Sun gaze.
yeah, before we get ready to close it out, anything you'd like to share with the audience or any projects you have coming up?
So yes, thanks for the conversation. If anyone wants to get in touch with me, or they're curious about like my work and my offerings, everything can be found on my website, which is www.manifestingalchemy.com.
Okay. And I think, yeah, traveling. I did want to go skip over traveling in the future, I guess, or
we'll
eventually
definitely have you back for another
to see what's your
episode.
favorite traveling places since you.
Oh, I'll be happy to talk on that.
Yeah. And if you're ever in Los Angeles, we like to invite everyone in. We're in downtown LA. So I'd like to invite you in for an in-person studio conversation as well.
I did have one more question.
Sure.
If there are 3 plants you can't live without, if you had to pick 3.
For like healing, or is this general?
For
Like,
healing or for even eating for health purposes, just 3 that you feel like are super important that the audience should know about.
okay, wow, that's a good question because I love plants.
I
I'm like,
figured, so I'll let you pick 3.
okay, I would say one would be aloe vera. Um, 2 more, roses,
Hmm.
and third one, oh, this is gonna be hard. Probably hibiscus.
Hibiscus.
Okay. Interesting. Well, thank you for that.
That was hard.
Thank you so much for your time and consideration, all of the gems that you've dropped. You shared a lot of valuable information for us personally, and I'm sure for our listeners as well. We'd like to thank everybody for listening, for supporting, clicking like.
And for the podcast, you can find us at americangypsy.com. You'll also find links to our online store at luamlee.com. And everything Dr. Eqypt mentioned will be in the description, all her information where you can find her. And for music,
you can find some of my instrumental music and also some vocal music under Classic, Klaccik, Carpenter, Carpenta. And there'll be links below. It's on all major platforms: Tidal, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, etc. And thank you again. Thank you, Dr. Eqypt, for your time and consideration. And
Thank you.
thank you to everyone listening. Consistent self improvement to everyone. We love you and see you next time. Peace.